We are now tough act to follow, but I think actually they're up to the challenge. Dr. Emmett Carson, the CEO of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and Sid Espinosa, the Director of Corporate Citizenship for Microsoft, former mayor of Palo Alto, are going to talk to us about the norm of giving, which I think is really interesting because giving is in some ways, and philanthropy is in some ways, built into the American social contract. And yet I think that social contract is changing over time, and so I'm really interested to hear. I've heard Dr. Carson speak before, and you're in for a treat here as well.
Thanks. Yeah. Very tough act to follow, for sure, but we'll try. It really is an honor and a pleasure to be speaking with Dr. Carson here today. For those of you from other parts around the world, his bio is available, but I'll just say briefly that with a legacy of working at other major foundations like the Ford Foundation, having run the foundation in Minneapolis, he came to the Silicon Valley when two major foundations 9 years ago were being combined and becoming a very powerful institution with $1.4 billion in assets at the time. In those 9 years, though, Dr. Carson has grown the foundation to a $6.5 billion organization, which now makes it the largest community foundation in the world and one of the top 10 foundations of any sort in the world. So the influence and the power and really the voice of Dr. Carson and the Community Foundation globally and thinking about the future of philanthropy and the investments that will be made in social movements and innovative, disruptive social innovations like we're talking about here today is really unprecedented, and it's really an incredible opportunity to be able to get some insights from him about what some of these trends are, how he's thinking about investments and growth of the philanthropic sector. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. One of the things that's come up again and again, and we saw this just with the last couple ones, talking to Sal, talking about Willie in Oakland, but thinking about that globally, is how we think about community. Because so often, people in this room are identifying a community, whether it's a demographic, a geography, and thinking about how they're going to institute social change, how they're really going to get in there and solve problems. Here in the Valley, though, we're seeing this trend that we just saw in these last couple presentations, which is people working at a local level, but their company or their interest, et cetera, is global. And so for you, as you're looking at the Community Foundation here in the Silicon Valley, but having companies and partners like Mark Zuckerberg most recently who want to work on global issues as well, how are you thinking about that? And how are you defining community? And how do you think we should be thinking about defining community and solving community problems?
Well, thanks. Thanks for the kind introduction. And I want to thank the Zeev and the Summit for asking me to be here. We have these phrases that we use all the time, like the world is becoming a smaller place. It's real. People are global citizens. And all of us in this room, particularly those of you in this room, are part of multiple communities. And so you take community foundations, which are the first one started 100 years ago. We saw community as only a geographical place. And now community is we're all part of multiple communities. I'm African American, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm over 50, you know. So you're in these different groups, and those are world communities. And so people, particularly in Silicon Valley, but increasingly across America. So as we're thinking about what's going on with the crisis in Syria, and we're worried about homeland terror, people are focused on Minnesota now because you've got Muslims from Ethiopia who are there, right? And you never would think, well, Minnesota's connected to the Muslim community in some way, and that may be a part of terror. So we, as a community foundation, believe that possibilities start with us, and we can do turnkey philanthropy for people for problems at home that are deeply rooted here, problems across the United States, and problems around the world. And corporations have those same issues. right? So we work with Texas Instruments, we work with Microsoft, we work with Cisco, we work with Juniper Networks, and we work with those folk here at home with their employee base here, their work across the United States, and then their work in other countries. And I think that will be the new reality, aided by the technology that instantaneously allows us all to connect in real time with events around the world. And so you want a philanthropic partner that can respond to those events wherever your charitable passions move you.
But how do the people in the room think then about who they connect with philanthropically? Because if you're based here but you're working on issues that are in Syria because you have people with that interest, are the people here connecting with you on a hyper-local basis? Should they be thinking about organizations that are there on the ground? I mean, what is that going to look like in the future?
It's all of the social networks we have, and I've given up my sense of control. So when the tsunami hit Japan a few years ago, I made the CEO decision we would not be involved in that crisis. Japan's an industrialized country. They have a lot of resources. We weren't actively working in Japan. No way, I told the team. By Monday, we had 2 corporations and 5 donors saying, we want to direct monies to help people in Japan. And overnight, we were in Japan. And we were doing work in Japan. Same thing happened with Haiti and the earthquake. So when you have your donors and they look to you to say, we count on you to source the best ideas, to find out the people, to figure it out for us. It's not about me making decisions anymore. It's about being responsive to the world events that they're seeing and saying their charitable impulse to want to be helpful to people is driving them to say, you're our folk for these things. If you can't figure it out, why am I to trust somebody I don't know? And so we've had people overseas give us grants during the Haiti crisis. And I was like, why is somebody in Europe sending money to us to do something in Haiti, right? And it came back, we trust your judgments. And as you build that brand of trust, then people gravitate to figure that they believe you will figure out the best, most effective, impactful uses of the dollars.
Yeah, but I think those blurred lines start to raise questions about expertise, right? I mean, do you know best who to partner with in Japan after the tsunami? I mean, how do you make that work?
I don't know, but because of the same software and relationships we have companies that have employees there, they live and work there, we have colleague foundations that are there, and so just as we do with everything else, I don't know the restaurant and you name the city. But after 15 minutes, I can tell you the best 10 restaurants. That's 15 minutes without even getting on the phone with somebody. So if I spend half a day with really smart people, we can figure it out. A journalist today gets a story on a topic they've never heard about before. And by tonight, it'll be on the nightly news and we'll be educated about it. So this notion about expertise and knowledge, it's not that I know the groups. It's not that I'm an expert on the groups. They believe in the expertise of our staff to go figure it out and give them a very good set of options. And that's what we offer people.
Well, along those lines, one of the disruptive, if I can use that term, things that you did, I know, coming in was challenge a bunch of the organizations in this region to think about the real impact they were having. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about the issues that you see on the horizon as sort of how social movements and people that are interested in social innovation, how you see that landscape, right? What you see is sort of pushing the envelope there in the same way that you kind of forced people to push the envelope when you came.
So this will be my controversial statement, I hope, that I'm the opposite of crowdfunding as a way to make good bets. Crowdfunding can do a lot of things, but I don't want to pick a surgeon by crowdfunding. I want a specialist. And my team consists of people who are specialists. They understand the nuance. They understand the people for the work here. We make big bets where we can. We make big bets. We don't spread it around. We don't want to make everybody happy. We say in particular spaces, education, financial literacy, regional planning, immigration. This is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the very best players. We're going to invest in them over time to get to specific solutions. Understanding by having that kind of focus will exclude a lot of other important, worthwhile things. But to go deep and to focus, and I think that's what you're seeing from a lot of our donors, and I think that's going to be an increasing trend. They're not going to, the donors of the past, older donors, people my age group and older, they will have 30, 40 charities that they'll support every year. And they have their long list, and they'll say, see me again in another year, and send me the annual report, and I may go to your annual dinner. The younger donors are going to have 3 or 4 charities. They're going to go really deep with those charities. They're going to be in frequent contact 24/7. I read this, I saw this, and they expect the response back in real time. And I think that's a shift that's going to challenge us, but I think it's going to push us forward. We're on the cusp of what I think is a new renaissance in American philanthropy. We have people who are much wealthier, much younger, willing to make much bigger bets, and will have resources over a much longer period of time. And that's very different than the Carnegies, Rockefellers, and Fords that waited to the end of their careers and only dabbled in it and had a very hands-off approach to how they thought about philanthropy. So we've got a lot of great opportunities in front of us. Last point on this, those people are not creating the same kinds of traditional foundation institutions for their philanthropy. They're much more hands-on, they're much more involved, they're much more focused, and I think that's a trend that'll continue.
And how are you helping, especially here in the Valley, where so many of these young philanthropists have started companies, and from day one, it's their customers are global, their employees are global. When they're thinking about solving world issues, and we've been on in these conversations together, they'll say right from the beginning where people are saying, hey, help with what's happening here in East Palo Alto or in Redwood City, right? What's happening in the Tenderloin or East San Jose? The response will be, I want to work on reforestation in Brazil or AIDS in Africa, or these sort of broad global problems. How are you helping people think about responsibilities, commitments, whatever you want to do as a citizen at a local level and then at a global level?
So I'm gonna tell you my fundraising secret. All right, so get ready. It's called Reciprocity. Have you ever, just think about this, you see 2 double sets of doors and you're walking through with somebody else. Invariably, if you hold open the door for the person behind you, what do they do at the next door? They hold it open for you. If I help that donor with deforestation or whatever their issue is, their passion, and I do a good job in helping them make that happen, 1, I've made the world a better place, but 2, I've gained real, authentic relationship and trust with that person. So when I come and say, we've got income inequality in the Valley, we've got an affordable housing crisis in the Valley, we've got an immigration problem in the Valley, we've got predatory payday lending problems in the Valley, they listen and reciprocate. My first opportunity with Mark and Priscilla were around the $100 million gift in Newark, New Jersey. That was what it was. But because we worked faithfully on that work, they've made a commitment to $120 million here in the Valley. Reciprocity. People have multiple philanthropic interests. I have never been good at sitting down with somebody who, for whatever reason, I'm interested in heart disease, I'm interested in disabilities, I'm interested in, you name it, arts, and I sit down and say, really, you should be interested in education. I've never made progress that way. I've made progress in saying, tell me why you're interested in that, tell me how we can help, tell me what success looks like for you, then going with my team, the best team in philanthropy, making it happen where they have a lot of pride about what they've been able to accomplish. And then I say, Do you know around the corner from us, behind our office, there are RVs that people are living in, and it's 90 degrees outside, and kids are trying to study in that, and here's our plan to do something about that. And they say, really, Emmett, tell me more. Reciprocity. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not only my thing versus their thing. It's understanding that I'm in the field of making humanity better off.
Let's talk a little bit about something that you mentioned just then, which was the payday loans. And it's an area really about policy making. And foundations for decades really have carried the ball, I think, to a certain point and then struggled with the fact that maybe they're scaling a program, they're highlighting something that works, but to get real systemic change, you need a policy change. And foundations aren't structured to make that happen. You have led really a movement into getting and with you can explain the payday loan engagement, to take that on and to go that last lap and make that policy component part of some of the work that you're doing. And can you just tell me about the appropriateness you think there is of foundations in policy making?
Yeah, absolutely. So some definitions first. Advocacy and lobbying are two different things. Lobbying means that there is a specific law that you want somebody to pass or say no to, and a call to action. You say, please vote yes, please vote no. That's lobbying under the law. Advocacy is information. Right? So every foundation can engage in advocacy. We did a report, we have grantees, they find this work has been very helpful, we're in favor of early childhood literacy, we think it's a good thing. That's advocacy. But if there's a bill to expand childhood literacy, vote yes or vote no, that's lobbying. Private foundations can do advocacy, not lobbying. Community foundations can do advocacy and lobbying. We lobby as a community foundation. We have a lobbyist in Sacramento. We lobby in Washington, D.C. Payday lending, they charge 450% interest to the poorest people in our communities. None of you would pay 450% interest for anything, ever. It's restricted to 36% for military families. We think that that's outrageous. We have not been able to get a state law passed. We've been able to keep predatory payday lenders from expanding across the state. We're active in D.C. for online payday lenders. But we've passed 17 local ordinances, including the most important ordinance in San Jose restricting payday lending. We got the governor to sign a bill this year around math misplacement where 8th graders who had passed the 8th grade test were being told they had to repeat it, knocking them off track to go to college. It's unbelievable to believe that that was going on. So that we had to go get a law to say if the kid passes the test, put them in the right class going forward. And it only surprisingly happened to kids of color, Latinos, and African Americans. But now a new law is passed. So yeah, I believe in public policy. I believe in advocacy, information, and I believe in lobbying. And we have the strong support of the board. It's not all we do, it's not everything we do, but it's an important tool in our toolkit to do that work.
We're about to get the hook. And I could talk to you for another hour, frankly, because there's so many things that I want to dive into. But give us, tell me as we close, what gives you hope in this space? As you're listening to all the different speakers that come up, as you look at the landscape globally for philanthropy, what are you hopeful about? We are at a unique place that we need to celebrate. Never before have we had so many innovations as have been represented here today and yesterday. So many things going on, so many opportunities, and so many young, wealthy people willing to make big bets to invest. And we ought to celebrate what that can mean for making a difference in the lives of people. So I'm extraordinarily optimistic as we are at the start of what I think is this new American Renaissance in philanthropy. Great. Thank you so much. And
thank you all
for having
so
us.
much.